everybody, and welcome back to what I think is Spider-Verse. I think I'm labeling this Spiderversity.
Special episode, yeah.
Special episode of Spiderversity, even though it doesn't share the format, is going to be on the main channel eventually. But listen, it's me, DJ, with Sal and Johnny. Hey. And we're all talking about Spider-Man, so that feels like a Spiderversity to me, is what that is.
Damn right.
Yes. Branding's important. I need to get it right. But I knew we were all going to want to talk about Spider-Man 2, the PS4 game. You all beat it in like a weekend, so we had to wait for me.
I beat mine, I think, a week ago. So it did take me a long time. No, everyone wanted to talk about it, and they were like, oh, man, spoiler alert. I'm like,
For real, I don't think there was a major beat that was not spoiled for me.
Really?
Oh man, I'm sorry, that sucks.
Just through scrolling through Instagram or like headlines, like what does this character mean in the post-credit scene? I'm like, why would you do that? Why would that?
It's amazing because I was not spoiled about anything for this game, but I was spoiled for the post-credit scene for the Marvels multiple times.
Oh my god! Well, it's funny after the show because if you got the full spoiler, I think I figured out my question. This is a different discussion that if you're watching this when this show drops, I've already had with Roxy. But the post-credit reveal, there was a post-credit reveal, and I was like, I don't know what this means. And if I don't know, that might be a problem because of the people that would know. Presumably, it'd be me.
When I saw the spoiler, I went, no! So I don't actually have the full...
Okay, yeah, so we'll wait. That's my interaction with and fortunately with AI bullshit, because I never lingered on anything. I was like, maybe this could be fake. And then it ended up not being fake. I'm like, well, that's still cool. I still enjoyed it.
Tying it in with Spider-Man, do you guys remember that pitch perfect fake post-credit scene leak at the end of, I think it was Age of Ultron?
Yeah, that was supposed to be from like a ride. That was like a Spider-Man ride where he like lands on the side of a building or something.
Right? It was just it was a scene where there's a window washer.
Yeah.
And he's cleaning the Avengers Tower and Spider-Man's on the wall and he's
I did not see that.
Oh, you got to see it because once you see it, you'll go, boy, I wish this was a post-credit scene.
Yeah. This would have been nice. So, I've talked a little bit about it. If you are a patron, you're getting the opportunity to see this early. This episode is going to go up eventually on the main channel, but if you're a patron, you got to see it before everybody else, or watch live. It was a little last minute, so not a lot of live people tuning in, but you get to watch it ad-free and early. That's patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. Of course, if you're listening to this on the main channel, 5-star review. We love it. We always ask a question on the Spotify. A previous question, because we dropped Sal and Mike's discussion, first part discussion on Venom just a week ago as of this recording. And there was a poll on that said, will you be playing Spider-Man 2 on PS5? 33% said yes. 0 said no. 66% said, I don't have a PS5.
That actually is great market research for PlayStation.
Yeah. I wonder, I should have added one like, will you be getting a PS5?
Right.
Solely to play
this game make you buy a PlayStation 5? Yeah.
And I would argue between this and God of War, Ragnarok, I think God of War is PS5 exclusive. I don't think there's a PS4 version.
No, yeah, definitely.
No, there's not. Yeah,
because I was going to say Stray, but I think you can play Stray on PS4. So
you can play it, I think, on your PC. I don't remember, but Stray's great, man. But also, in light of the Xbox announcement, I think they're they're embracing AI and stuff like that. It was like, oh, well, then definitely go with PlayStation, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's I can't believe I'm endorsing a Sony product. I feel awful.
Again, patreon.com/onlystupid-answers. You can see Sal and I discuss every Spider-Man movie and animated show and all that with Johnny hopping in for the assist more than a couple of times. We've said our remarks on Sony, but I did realize for as much and also as of this recording, they just dropped the trailer for the new Ghostbusters movie that just does not look like a Ghostbusters movie. That's how I'll phrase it. It doesn't look like a Ghostbusters movie.
Does it? I mean, I almost got into it on so many levels with so many different people, and just chose non-violence the entire time. Like,
Yeah.
there was a tweet from a prolific cartoonist who said something like, "Does anybody remember when Ghostbusters was a perfect comedy and also not a franchise?" And I'm like, no, I don't remember when Ghostbusters wasn't a franchise. They're selling T-shirts in that movie. No, it was never not a franchise. It is also a perfect comedy, but no.
Yeah. It's just funny to me how the Afterlife sequels don't seem to understand what people liked about Ghostbusters. But I will say, wait, what was I? Boys and Gem V, as I believe, are a Sony production. There was another show I was just watching. Oh, I'm watching. I think it's For All Mankind is a Sony production. So for the movies, not doing so shaky decision making. Shows Breaking Bad, I believe, is a Sony production. The show side doing not so bad. Not so bad.
Yeah. That's true. And can't forget that they do make Spider-Verse.
They do make Spider-Verse,
and they make a Spider-Verse movie, or lie about making another Spider-Verse movie.
And they make
the next one.
This game. So we've all beaten Spider-Man 2. I have not done I haven't collected all the little spider bots yet. Or done the little.
I got them.
Emily, I'm gonna do it. I'm a completionist. That's why I was talking to Johnny about it before. That's why I get a little pissy about the little the Emily May science stuff, is because I'm gonna do this. I don't want to, but I'm fucking gonna. So I'm gonna do all that stuff. I haven't yet. If there's spoilers with that stuff, I am at a point with the spider bots. It's like, I get where we're going. I understand what we're building.
I feel like I know what we're doing.
Yeah, I get where this is headed. Broad strokes. But I did beat the game. We've all beaten the game. But we're gonna start spoiler free. We don't want to be like those thumbnails ruining it for the kids. So spoiler free. Johnny, let's start with you. Spoiler free thoughts on. Just general thoughts on Marvel's Spider-Man 2 for PS5.
I really enjoyed it. Mechanically, especially, just like a beautiful game, really fun. I feel like I was mixed on them doing the whole web wing thing, but it's pretty fun. Even though I'm like, well, I still choose to swing maybe a little more often than I do the web wing, but it's fun.
My one note on the web wings is that it is the same button to web strike somebody. So my old habit of when like a crime's going up, I'm going to web strike somebody immediately. But I guess I'm not close enough, and so I'll web wing and shoot across the map.
But I would say, I guess, as far as the story goes and the experience overall, I feel like it's a game of high highs with that I feel is a little slightly less cohesive than the previous two.
Interesting.
So loved it in general, and wish everything had come together a little more cohesively in the end, but still like some of my favorite Spider-Man moments I've experienced.
Yeah. Sal, what about you? Generally, spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah, similarly to Johnny, I love it. I love the mechanics. Everything about it clearly comes from like a place of like focus testing. Like, what did you love about this game mechanically? What didn't you love about it? Let's change that. Fast travel, interchanging between the characters. Obviously they reduced the gadgets, which by the third replay I had become very accustomed to. Because I was just using them as secondhand. I'm just like, boom, 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 boom. I was a god, like they complained, and so I was like, all right, well, fine. I understand what you're doing, but like, web slinging has never been more intuitive and fluid and fun. The web wings, again, I was also really like, oh, I don't know about this. They want me to fly like Batman, like, okay, Arkham City. I do it a lot. Like, I will sling myself across, and I'm like, all right, web wing time, and then I just soar, and I'm like, this is really awesome, and I can't deny it.
Well, especially since they incorporate, now you have to travel over bodies of water more, and then there's neighborhoods like Queens that aren't necessarily as conducive.
They're
to
not
swing.
conducive to slinging. But mechanically, I love it, and there's some great moments, and I'm glad they didn't go as hard with some of the emotional moments as they did in the previous one, because I don't know about you, but like, I can't spoil anything right now, but I will say, like, I was on the edge of my seat. I was continually stressed. I was too stressed in this game for it being a video game. Like, I was every turn, every emotional moment, every plot twist, I'm like, oh no! And then it gets to the next part, and I'm like, all right, fine. But but I don't know if I liked it as much as the first game.
That's so interesting. I think I'm different than both of you because for me, this is easily the best of the three.
Nice.
I was not as I really enjoyed Spider-Man PS4. I was not as like whole hog sold on it as everybody else. I thought the story was a little lopsided. Like it's like Mr. Negative, Mr. Negative, Mr. Negative, everybody, and it's like you could have balanced this a little bit better. And I thought some of the I think when I say I didn't love parts of the story, I think what I specifically mean is I didn't love that they made Mary Jane Lois Lane, and I didn't love that they gave Spider-Man a Commissioner Gordon. Right. Those were my main narrative hangups that we've mostly sort of resolved in this one. We got rid of Commissioner Gordon. Mostly. Mary Jane's even more Lois Lane now, but we'll get into that later. And so for this one, but also like full disclosure, Venom and Kraven are two of my favorite Spider-Man villains. So like this game already immediately like as long as you kind of nail those components, I'm probably gonna be way on board.
Fair.
And I think my criticisms would be that I don't really feel like Spider-Man when he's busting out his robot arms and like corkscrew spinning at people. Mm-hmm. And so it's like I miss some of the stealth missions aren't as fun in this one as they were in Miles Morales and Spider-Man 1. So I think I would have wanted them to tweak it so that like I like that the combat's a bit more complicated. Even though I still can't quite nail counters, I still kind of keep fucking those up.
Yeah,
yep, same.
I'm in the same place. Yeah,
yeah.
Yep.
That sounds like a problem now. Okay,
yeah. It's all three of us are like kind of fucking up. I do a dodge, but I was supposed to do a counter, and now I'm fucked.
Yes, and they keep wanting me to do it. They're like always like you can't move to the next level of the fight unless you counter him.
Counter this guy. Like, yeah.
How about I play how I want to play?
Yeah.
What I want to do is launch 17 spider bots.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. And so I wonder if there's a little bit like, because both Miles and Peter get gadgets, and then Miles gets his electrical abilities, and then Peter gets the arms until he gets the symbiote. And it's like, maybe Peter gets the gadgets and Miles gets his powers.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm missing the fucking stealth missions where I got to put that little guy that if somebody walked by, they got webbed up and stuff.
Dude, it's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Especially attaching it to someone and then them webbing to another person. So funny.
The one improvement over the stealth missions is the ability to create a web line while you're on another line. It's like, this is great. This is 100%. A great component.
And I can actually beat stealth missions stealthily. Like there's a certain point in the first game where after a certain point, the game goes, all right, that's enough.
Yeah.
And then they see you no matter what, and you can't web everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
For certain missions. But with this one, I'm like, yeah, I think I can web everybody. Also, just the visual of having like 7 guys on one line is terrifying. And I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is what I was trying to replicate when I was doing them in the first game. You've done it.
You've nailed it. So those are our spoiler-free thoughts. I think before we leave here, I think for me it's Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, then the first Spider-Man game. Do you guys have a similar hierarchy?
It's so hard for me to say because I feel like overall this one I didn't find as cohesive as the last two, but I also the highs are so high I almost want to rank it higher. They're all so close for me, but I feel like my favorite is the Miles Morales game.
Yeah.
And then really close between 1 and 2 for different reasons.
Yeah. What about you, Sal?
It's been a while since I've played Miles Morales, but I would have to probably tier it 1, 2, 3. Like it'd have to be like Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, and then 3. Or 2 rather. 2 is 3. Yeah.
Right.
I think since we're all over the map, I think that's a good sign for this franchise that they're doing good. Yeah. They're doing good job. Good job, you all. So now, well, let's get into spoilers. Let's just fucking do it. Let's tear the Band-Aid off. Jump into the story. I'm open to suggestions on what is a good way to because it's a game, right? So it's not like we can go through it. I guess we could, but we're not going to go through it beat by beat.
No, it's true. We could hit like all the there's the skill tree, there's the fighting, there's the story, there's the characterization, the future of the franchise.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about the future of the franchise. I think talking about the mechanics itself, we're not a game show. Like,
right.
So I think it's mostly the narrative. So let's kind of chunk that off by I guess, character. So I think the game opens with an incredible sequence where you fight Sandman, which is fucking great.
Yeah.
Right
What
off
a
the
way to
bat, like going
start.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, kaiju Sandman fight. Okay, cool.
Yeah, great. And
And
it's a great.
I was surprised that we didn't get like another one. You know, like it's
Yeah.
I when I was talking to a couple other friends of mine about this, one of them was like, it never gets cooler than the Sandman
I don't know.
fight.
I understand that. I don't know that I agree, but I understand the sentiment. Yeah,
Totally. Like I was surprised that like we didn't get just a giant symbiote that we have to like.
Yeah,
race. Like
I'll say that I'm jumping ahead. No, that's jumping ahead. I'll save it. It just broad strokes. I like Venom. I like Carnage. Just even from the comics, I don't know that I like symbiotes. We always love to like. Here's a bunch of them. I'm like, I don't know that I care for this.
I always was like, no. Like once the Life Foundation's like, here's 5 Venoms. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah, no, and while I totally get it, see, I'm forgiving of certain things because it's a game. How does Kraven afford 50 million hench people? Whatever. You need people to beat up. Like, why am I fighting? And also, it doesn't help that the symbiotes are motherfuckers. They're like, by the time they show up, like, I'm pretty good with the combat. And then they show up, I'm like, fuck these
Those
guys.
green ones, no.
Yeah. And then the ones that shoot out the little bomby ones, like, I don't like this.
I got long range symbiotes. Get out of here.
Yeah, but anyway, but I understand it's a game. I get it, and they do a good job of connecting it to other. I don't want to jump ahead, connecting it to other stuff from the comics. That it's like that's fine.
Yeah, I like.
But we're starting with Kraven. He's our opening antagonist, and as a Kraven fan, I like that they make this guy a real son of a bitch. Like this guy is like this guy's fucking up everybody's day.
It's true. Yeah.
I like that. So in the first game, like the whole inciting incident is taking down Fisk, which like kind of creates this power vacuum in New York.
Yes. Yeah.
And I like that this one, they go a different route where they do this big epic Sandman fight, but that's actually a result of what has already happened and is now going to be the big issue going forward. It's cool to have this giant horrifying fight against this sand monster and find out that he was actually scared of this other guy.
Yes,
that's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the thing that they do throughout the game is you kind of like as they ratchet up, you realize like, oh no, this guy's a genuine problem. This guy, which of course pays off later when Venom shows up, and you're like, whoa. But Sal, what did you think about the Kraven of it all?
Kraven is one of my least favorite Spider-Man villains, which I think is funny. And you know, he's like I read Spider-Man longer when he was dead than when he was alive. You know what I mean? And it was like, and then whenever they brought him back, I'm like, get out of here. It never got better than when he died.
Yeah.
And that I was looking forward to this like new version of Kraven, irrespective of any movies or anything, that give us a kind of distilled version, because that's what this game does. It takes every version you know, and then it distills them down into like this character that has all the history, maybe, but if it doesn't, then it's gonna like earn it by being like a tough one. And it's like Kraven is exactly that. He got the Insomniac treatment, as I like to call it, and it worked really well. Like he is the Kraven you know, although more formidable and scary than the other one. There's a missed opportunity here with Kraven that we'll talk about more in story, but overall, what they do with him really works, despite how much I didn't like him previously. Though I don't know if we needed to kill characters to elevate his character.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, because confirmed kill Scorpion.
Right.
Volk said that Vulture is killed.
Yes.
And I've seen people like he killed, because you see cells later in the game. He killed basically every villain from the first game. We didn't see them die.
True.
Except for Scorpion.
Except for Scorpion, which I'm fine. I didn't love the way they Scorpion they gave the Scarecrow treatment from Arkham, and I'm like, why? This should be Mysterio. That's who does this.
But they feel bad for Mysterio. In the first game they were like, and then in the next game they were like, he's a good guy. Like, what are you doing with Mysterio? What is your weird soft spot for Mysterio? But okay.
Yeah, we're doing Tombstone gets a little bit of a redemption, which I get within the context of what we're doing.
Totally.
Yeah. But I'm fine if we backtrack it. But yeah, so how many people, and I guess there's an Easter egg where you can find like Rhino's head, but it's an Easter egg. I'm not convinced if they didn't die on screen, I'm not convinced they're actually dead.
Yeah, but I think that's actually part of like a DLC where you go to Kraven's compound, you're gonna find more heads.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Could be right.
What do you think, Johnny? How many? What is Kraven's body count? Do you think?
What are we talking about here?
Wait. He has kids. We know from phone calls he's got kids that can show up in sequels.
I got the sense that they were trying to imply that he pretty much took them all out, but but I guess it's not confirmed. You're right, not confirmed. So,
but that feels like a major waste to me. It's like you've got at least one more game in the pipeline. What are you doing?
I know, and I think that if they were gonna go that route, they should have shown more of it. Like really showcase how powerful Kraven is more than just fighting Scorpion. So little missed opportunity, but it did feel like the implication was that they were all taken out.
Right.
Oopsie poops.
I guess Insomniac's like, well, we did the Sinister Six. Like, they're never going to get more formidable or interesting than when they were all together, and we're not going to do it again. So get everyone who was on the Sinister Six off the table.
But I just wonder, because I think I obviously I was avoiding articles because I don't want to spoil, but like somebody was like, we're not going to run out of villains. So like, you're not going to run out of villains, but you could run out of good villains.
Yeah,
that's not the ones people
we
care
got
about.
Stilt-Man, we got the Big Wheel, we got Will-o'-the-Wisp. It's going to be awesome. Like,
we got Speed Demon. We reference them.
Speed Demon's in the game.
Yep. Wait, is he? He's referenced, but is the actual character there? Oh, I was going to say because
he's
the ride.
He licensed out his likeness. For the ride.
But it's one of those like, don't fucking. I don't know, man.
Right.
I also think, I don't think this is jumping ahead. We'll get to it in the future. I definitely think there's room for an Arkham Origins type game. Like, hey, remember all those? Yeah.
Love that.
Here's the adventures before Spider-Man 1.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I can't believe I never thought of that.
Well, especially since we pick up 8 years after he starts, and he's already rounded up all these villains in the raft. So it's a real easy opportunity to show his first showdowns with a lot of these different villains. So
and they could be a lot more scaled down too. Like they could be more classic. Like when he's fighting Vulture, he could have like feathers and stuff. It could be Mysterio being really operatic and silly. Like
that'd be great. And I'd also like that too, because one of my favorite and I'm kind of bummed. You mentioned your friend that was bummed that we didn't get more Sandman. I'm kind of bummed that we didn't get more like. This is going to sound stupid to some people, but like the flashbacks with young Peter and Harry, like narratively, I really liked that stuff. And it's bummer that we never revisited. Like what they mentioned, Flash is like, I would like to see Flash.
Yeah.
Flash is a really important character. I love Flash's like development throughout the history of Peter Parker. So like, and knowing that we're kind of transitioning from Peter Parker, I was like, well, then we're never going to get him.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless Spider-Man Origins.
Yeah.
Right. Did you guys do the side mission where you do the like he's bringing his first photo to the Bugle?
Oh
yes, I did that.
Yeah. That was fun too. I like those. Good. I like those little side missions. It was just cool to see and that basically gave me that same idea that we could totally do a whole game set in this era. Yeah,
that I do think we'll get into this more when we talk about spinoffs. But I was thinking about it last night, and it's like this series at this point, and it would get stale. But this franchise, Insomniac could basically do when you're talking about like Miles spin-off stuff like that. They could do like a Modern Warfare or a Call of Duty where every year there's a new game using the same thing, and I would buy all of them. I would buy all of them.
I would too. As long as obviously if they do the big sequels have to do the massive like mechanical upgrades, but I don't mind playing a game built on the shoulders of the last one 100%. If it's got a cool story for Spider-Man characters.
They could release a Miles Morales-esque solo game for just Peter that's either a flashback or a in-between movie or game.
Dude, and it's funny, Sal, because I just thought, like, I think as weird as it would seem, I think you just hit on the title, Spider-Man Peter Parker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I also kind of want, I think I get why they don't. But I think there is a version of a Spider-Man game that has like dating sim elements where you're like, what love interest is Peter going to end up with? That is true to the comics. It is true to that spirit.
It's such a big part of Spider-Man. You're right.
Yeah. And I think that comes from just because I don't mind MJ in this game other than, I just transitioned myself, other than it's not MJ. Like it's not, this isn't Mary Jane to me.
Right.
And to the point where I'm like, he's got like 20 love interest. Pick one that fits what you're doing more.
Yeah.
Right.
And let that be it. And what I had to, so this is, let's talk about the MJ of it because we still get the stealth missions, which I would argue are better.
They are better.
Yeah, I think they're more. I think they're actually kind of fun in this one.
They're kind of fun. It's just in my brain. It's just what. Here's what I had to do. I had to, in my brain, whenever we get in those missions, I had to just say, this is Lois Lane. I'm playing a Lois Lane game now. Because that is a person I believe has the little like stun gun and can take people out and shit. Like I buy that. She's a reporter. And so I just had to be like, I'm now, get out of your brain that this is Mary Jane. It's Lois Lane. I'm playing a Lois Lane submission. And then it was fine. It was smooth sailing. What did you guys think about the Mary Jane in this game?
I don't mind her at all. Like, I know there was a lot of like manufactured controversy from people who would be mad no matter what, but I had no problem with Mary Jane because I'm like, this is what they want to do with Mary. Like, honestly, it was like there is a lot of like acceptance in modern media where I have to go like, this is what they want to do with this, and I don't own it. I can't lease it. I'll never make it. This is what they're doing, and I can either enjoy it or I can move on and not enjoy it. Like, my options are either to consume the media or to reject the media. These are the choices.
That's a very healthy way of viewing it. That's a very healthy way of viewing it.
Like, my only complaint about Mary Jane is that, and I said this on another show, so like, technology for these characters has come a long way, and it's really amazing. And like, it used to be just drawings and pixels and stuff like that, but now they can have the full skeletal structure. So like, I know that they have Mary Jane's skull underneath like a mask of flesh, and I'm very aware of it by her teeth. Like, her teeth are very not white. And
I feel that way about everyone's teeth in this game.
Everyone's teeth in this game was really weird, but Mary Jane is like, maybe it's because she has the red hair around it, but like, it's the first thing I noticed. I was like, whoa!
That's
like,
funny.
Her teeth are very separate from her face, and I'm like, what is this? And then I saw it with everybody, and I'm like, what is this?
I'm lucky that I'll probably not.
I'm sorry, I ruined
I didn't notice that before. For me, and I think this really happened once they changed Peter's face. Yeah. I was like, did you just like? You're like, Peter and MJ have to be the whitest fucking people you've ever met. Like, the most boring white people you can imagine. That's Peter and Mary Jane.
Exactly. I don't understand why. I also, when they did the re-upgrade for the first game and they changed Peter's face, people were getting really mad, and I was like, I was not terribly like miffed. I was like, oh well, whatever. In this game, I was actually more disappointed than I was previously.
Oh,
and I think it's just because the new model doesn't emote like that first model does. Like, that first model is a person. This model is like some kind of an AI. Like, it's Tom Holland. It's this. It's the. It's like,
we composited the three of them, and it's like, this is the perfect Spider-Man. Like,
that's exactly what it is. It's like they composited every actor who's ever played Spider-Man into one white guy.
And it's like, is that the maybe? I don't know. It's every time he's out of his mask, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't mind his face in this one. I didn't mind the face change in general. The only issue I had with it in the first game is actually that same thing, but it felt like the new face in the remastered wasn't emoting as much as the original face in the remastered. Even though I don't mind the face, I'm fine with the face.
No, totally,
I also thought the first face was a little uncanny valley. Like, the first face to me was like, oh, he looks like he's in his 30s and he's supposed to be 23. Even though the new one's maybe a little too young looking, it's they can't quite get it right.
Well, and it's also tough too. That's always challenging to change midstream. Like, hey, you know that game you spent like dozens of hours on? The main character's face is different now. It's like, well, that's wait, what?
And that feels like the most Sony thing you can do. Like, make it look like the guy we're paying millions of dollars to be the guy from the movies we're making. Like, all right.
So we get to now obviously it was all in the advertising. The game takes its time getting to it, but we get to and I actually liked the one thing that wasn't spoiled for me. And it created a little bit of swerve. Like, I actually don't know where we're going. Is when Harry becomes Agent Venom. Before the suit goes to Peter, I was like, oh, is there going to be a little bit of a swerve here, or somebody? It wasn't, but
I really did too. I thought like, oh, Brock's gonna get the symbiote now. Like, they're gonna introduce him now, and I'm like, oh, okay,
no, that's fine. I'm fine. There's part of me that's bummed that, you know, Sal and I have been, and Johnny, you were part of the episode too when we were talking about Venom and Spectacular Spider-Man, and like Venom being that like relentless, I'm going after Peter, and this is not that. But for what the game is doing, I think it works, and also he looks fucking cool as shit. So I was like,
he does. It kind of ruins his mystique a little bit when he's like, remember our sleepovers, and I'm like. Okay, Tony Todd is talking about sleepovers, and I'm like,
not for me. Not for me.
Okay, guys. But otherwise, I have no complaint. You know, I understand what they had to do, and I'm like, this is this universe. And I have to remind myself sometimes when I have like a gut reaction to something like that I know like the back of my hand, where I'm like, oh, that's a complete change from what I remember.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't take away from what it was, and doesn't change that, doesn't change this, it's this. And I'm like, that's fine. And the problem is Venom is so cool in this game, mechanically, and also like when he's venoming, I got no problem with it. But it's not that I'm like, I love it, actually. It's more like I don't think about it at all. I'm just fighting Venom.
Yeah, I think within the game, I think it really works. And I was a little worried because I think I mentioned to both of you, like, I like Harry as a character, but typically I love to hate him because he's such a dip. Like he's such a
dip,
And so like the idea of making him Venom, I was like, he's not cool enough to be Venom. But in this game, game, I think they do a good job, and it does make sense when you're watching something like Spectacular Spider-Man and you've decided to give Brock a close personal relationship to Peter. It's like it is a little redundant, and so the idea of like let's just composite that version of Eddie into Harry and make it the same thing, and just move from there. Johnny, what did you think of Venom?
Obviously the heights. I think the heights of the game are Venom related. There's so much cool stuff going on. And I do appreciate how these games try to remix ideas we're familiar with into just new territory. I liked that in the first game. How they kind of slowly introduced Octavius as Ock over the course of that narrative, and gives him like the very close personal connection with Peter. And so I understand that. I thought that was a cool in for this version of Venom. And yeah, it mostly worked for me. I do think my problems with the narrative down the line come into play with, I felt like basically once you get to Venom, you fight Kraven. There's some good stuff after that, but that's kind of when I feel like things start to feel a little looser, and I feel like I could have used a little more time with the Venom arc of it all. I thought the symbiote arc was amazing.
Yeah,
and then the Venom arc was cool. Fantastic. Lots of great stuff on paper, and I just feel like there's a few more. They could have had a few more beats to just like make it work for me.
Yeah. Once the symbiote takeover happens, it's like, here's where the wheels come off on this story. And there was a moment where I like just put the controller down and I'm like, what are we doing? And I think we all know that it was when Mary Jane becomes Scream.
I never give a shit about Scream, but like, this is a good use of this plot mechanic.
That's when I
thought it was cool.
That's the thing, is like when she becomes Scream, I'm like, okay, so we're just throwing it all at the, because I mean, like, there was a lot of like really fun carryovers, like when we see the Rock and it's the null symbol, and I'm like, oh, cool! Like you're really attaching some lore to here, like, and then more symbiotes, and he can make symbiotes, and I'm like, okay, fine. But then she becomes Scream, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Like I did not, you did not sell me a game in which Scream would appear. Like I was not prepared for Scream to be in this game, and for it to be tied in with Mary Jane and like work and have it be like a real domestic argument that I'm like, this is too real. I'm gonna have to just check out this whole conversation.
This is hitting a little close to home. All right, we need to take a little break.
Right? Yeah. It's insane. But like the Scream moment, like people, I tweeted about it. I was like, there's a moment where I just screamed what at this. Yeah. And people kept asking me like, is it this point at this? I'm like, no, it's when freaking Scream is in the game. It's as baffling and ridiculous as when Scream shows up in the ride at Universal.
Well, I think obviously I feel like the vibe I'm getting is I'm a little more like way on board with this game than you, or like all that stuff. I will say the part that once that moment happens, and I love the moment because of the build up with Kraven. I love the moment. Well, one, because you get to play Venom. This is the one time in the game you get to play Venom.
Talk about that too. This is like a whole section.
But when he kills Kraven, it's like everybody, because Kraven was a problem.
That was cool. That was a cool moment, and one I wholly expected.
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. But I think what the part I can relate to when you guys are kind of talking about the wheels coming off is at that point in the game, talking about the little lopsidedness in the first Spider-Man game, it's basically all boss fights. Once Kraven happens, it's like boss fight, and they're all like multi-tiered boss fights.
And it felt like the ones that weren't boss fights were a little they felt a little undercooked. I don't know. Like, it felt like the few that weren't were like kind of quick, just like, oh, let's go save Rio and Genki from the train. It was like that, you know. And it's like it was just a lot of really fast stuff where I'm like, oh, isn't this where the like more emotion? I feel like this is where the story should be culminating a little more, you know.
Exactly.
And yeah,
I completely agree.
Yeah. My only real complaint with the end of the game is that I was seeing some headlines before with like Miles' worst suit, and I was like, it's not that bad, not realizing that they force you to end the game in that suit. And then that makes me kind of pissy about it, because it is not a great suit. I didn't know you were going to force me to finish the game in this suit.
It's true. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just wish it had a different color palette. I actually think the design of the suit is okay. Other than I'm not a fan of the hair coming out of the top.
Yeah, don't need that for my Spider-Man.
Or just put his hood up. I don't know. I think the design is kind of cool. I just don't know why they chose those colors. And if you look after you beat the game, you can swap the color palettes for that suit, and they all look better. They all look better than that
swaps.
one.
I immediately once we introduced, because I don't like I try not to stick with like the basic bitch like main suit. Once they introduced Miles' 10th anniversary suit, I was like, well, this is the suit I'm using, because I like this suit.
Great. I agree. No, that suit, you could feel the fact that they were like, this has to be some kind of a tie-in with something, because of like its insistence upon itself. Like
especially the timing of it. The big final battle, Miles is like, I thought it was time for change. Now, Miles? Now was the time?
I could have used your help in the 20 hours it took you to make this insane suit that looks like an Adidas shoe. Thank you.
That's what bothers me about it most, is like the way the cutscene starts and he just jumps in wearing it. Yeah. And there's and like, to me, I don't mind the idea of these characters having new suits. I feel like they always implement a sequence where they have to have a new suit for some reason. That works for me. But it felt like and that's actually maybe a symptom of a larger problem I have with this game, is I don't feel like Miles was implemented as thoroughly through the narrative as I wanted him to be.
100%. He's definitely a supporting character to Peter's story, which is almost inevitable, because you're dealing with Venom and Kraven and Lizard. None of those are Miles characters, you know?
Yeah. I have a solution for that, but I'm surprised they didn't do it. And it's just Kraven's last hunt him. Like, you just have Kraven, he hunts Peter, right? Like, and this is before he gets the symbiote, right? He hunts Peter down. The only thing is you remove the suicide, but like he hunts Peter, he shoots him with blanks or darts like he does in the Kraven's Last Hunt. Then he becomes Spider-Man, right? He puts on the costume, runs around. Meanwhile, Peter is buried in the ground at the cemetery.
Yeah.
So you have to play as Miles for a huge segment of the game where you think Peter's dead.
Yeah.
And like, you could have and Kraven's running around. Maybe Kraven gets a symbiote, you know, and he's running around. He's more powerful. And so you play as Miles and you're playing the game and you're thinking, oh my God, maybe they killed Peter in this game.
Yeah.
And then you do a stupid bonus mission where you have to tap the buttons and dig your way out of your grave. Like
that would have been
action
cool.
Command, dig your way out of your grave.
Like you just hit L and R and you're like, dig until you get out of there. Then you get a gorgeous cutscene in the rain, and then he's free. Or maybe the symbiote goes and gets him, you know, and it pulls him out of the. But anyway, you could have done the thing, because you killed him at the game in the end of the game anyway. So it's like you could have at least had those moments from this iconic comic that everyone knows. If they know anything about Kraven the Hunter, they know that he shoots Spider-Man, he buries him in the ground, and he dies. Yeah, that's all they know.
Yeah. I also have a theory of why Miles may have been undercooked here. But Johnny, what were you saying earlier?
Yeah. My big fix for Miles in this game, I think, is because I think they do some interesting stuff later with the idea there's a little bit of a rivalry with Harry and Miles, where Miles feels insecure because now Peter's spending time with his best friend, and then at the end of the game, it feels like Harry / Venom feels a little resentful of Miles. And I think a little earlier in the game, you add one extra mission in where you are Miles and Harry's Agent Venom on a mission together for some reason. And that way you get a little bit of a friendly rivalry, like, you know, Miles having more experience being a Spider-Man with Peter, Harry having more experience with Peter as a person, and that ties them together a little more as characters and gives Miles a little more connection to the Harry story outside of his connection to Peter, and Harry a little more connection to Miles in the fight. You know, you end fighting Venom as Miles. And I'm like, wait, they don't even know each other.
and they talk about that, like they reference like knowing each other, or they're like, I thought about this, and I'm like, do they even talk to each other?
They had one phone call. That's it.
They met at Coney
Island.
For that fantastic save sequence, the Coney Island save sequence. You always get the one where like, good job, Insomniac. This is you did it. You nailed it. Yeah. Before we move on, I do have a theory on what we're doing with Miles, but I did want to. We talked about Venom, but you guys touched on it. I do think the way they did the build up with the black suit was for this game basically perfect. This is a really good way to introduce that. My only issue, and it's actually my issue with a lot of black suit stories, is we tend to depict Peter as lawful good, great guy, no flaws, and then the suit comes up and suddenly his personality changes and he's whatever. And it's a little, and I think the game does land on this later on, because once they introduce Scream and once you hear Harry talking about his insecurities, how the suit's pulling out those insecurities, and we get a brief flashback of Peter punching a hole in the wall. But I wish in the black suit stories we did a better job of saying, no, Peter's flawed. And the suit's accentuating that.
Yes.
The one opportunity we really had to do that, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't landed, is actually, I think, in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, because that Peter is flawed. Like, he directly struggles with being very selfish. Like, that version of Peter, that's a problem for him.
Yeah.
And so there's a real opportunity there because it is a more flawed Peter. Whereas I think the Insomniac Peter is your traditional, like, great guy until the suit goes on and then he's a fucking dick and then the suit goes away and he's fine again. And it's like, I wish there was a little bit more. I wish there was a little bit more there, but I think what we land on is less the negativity, more insecurities.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Yeah. And then him just dealing with the barrage of trauma he's dealt with over the few years. Yeah.
So, ending on the Miles of it all, I think maybe one of the reasons Miles is undercooked, other than the fact that it's hard for him to compete with the breadth of stories, that Peter stories that this game pulls from, I think we're getting a Miles Morales 2. I kind of assumed that we were done with that.
I think
because they're both in this game, but it seems like it sets up there's a Miles Morales 2 on the horizon.
I assume it's going to be Spider-Man 3 is going to be Miles Morales. Like that, if we get a Miles Morales 2, it'll be a Peter Parker 1. It'll be a mini game with Peter. And then the rest
almost
of
feels like
Miles.
Well, they've also kind of maybe hinted that they want to do a Venom game, which would be cool. Although I think that's where you would maybe introduce Eddie Brock, because you can't really do Harry at this point.
You're jumping ahead, Johnny. I want to talk. I have a whole theory of what you could do. But what were you saying?
But I was gonna say I would love for them to do a Miles Morales 2, and then for me, Spider-Man 3 feels like it's gonna be. Yes, it starts as Miles, and then the Norman
Peter's got to
Osborn
come out of retirement,
and he's going to have to, because it's like Norman Osborn is he's the big bad of this Insomniac verse. Like every single thing in all of these games goes back to Norman Osborn in some way, and so like they've been building that really well, and I love how they've been doing that. But you can't do Spider-Man 3 and not have Peter come back out to deal with Norman Osborn.
Don't worry, fans, you're gonna love it. Miles fights Green Goblin. Peter doesn't show up in the game.
Yep. Well, I don't know. Which would you rather have? Peter doesn't show up and Miles saves the day, or Peter shows up and dies?
Ooh.
Well, if we're getting the flashbacks, here's what we're gonna do, Sal. Right. He's gonna die. I actually do think there is some mileage there, because this game does a reverse Empire Strikes Back, where like it's not the worst thing. The worst thing happened in the previous game.
Yeah.
But so maybe Peter shows up, dies in Spider-Man 3. What does that set up, Sal? It sets up in Spider-Man 4. Clones of Peter show up. You're welcome, Sal. I know you love it. You're welcome.
My God. I mean,
but now Miles is the one that has to deal with him. Peter's gone.
Yeah. No, man. No. I think that obviously their new mechanic of switching characters, like they're going to be like, oh, this is the new norm. So you
definitely,
might get,
especially with this character introduced at the end of the game.
And that's what's going to happen. Is like you're not going to switch between 3 characters.
I think you will. I think you will, especially Sal. This is Spider-Man 2. How many Spider-Men are in it? And so it's
Oh,
Spider-Man
you
3.
mean because of the number?
It's Spider-Man 3. It's Spider-Man 3. Okay, all right. Trying to transition into our speculation on what's down the line. I've thought this out, all right, and I figured out what I think they should do, which is a perfect way to engage with media and not a way to get let down in the future. All right, is to figure out in your own brain what they should do. Here's what I would like to see happen.
All right.
Previous game, we got 3 pieces of DLC with a story that was fine. It was fine. It was okay. But I think it would be really fucking cool if the 3 pieces of DLC was Carnage. Because we set up.
I get the sense it will be.
I think you're right. Yeah,
which I love.
They have the mechanics all down for.
And did you beat the flame? Did you?
I've not, but I know who that is. And I'm like,
well, the second, it's weird that they treated the reveal because they show his face, and I'm like, well. Clearly, that's Cletus Cassidy. Like, what are we doing? Like,
exactly.
Well, the fact, actually, they kind of like tricked me in that the fact that they didn't make a big deal out of it. I was like, well, and who the hell is this guy? I was like, they almost re-tricked me, being like, it can't be him. They wouldn't have made a big deal out of it.
It's funny because when the burners, which by the way, pre-symbiotes, fuck the burners, man. Those guys, the flame or whatever, fuck these guys.
Dude,
these
they
guys
were so annoying.
Yeah.
Why were they so hard?
Especially those flamethrower hand guy. Like, what the
guy?
Yeah.
Man, I swoop in, I kick him, and I just bounce off of him. I'm like, I didn't have a hard time fighting Venom versus this freaking stupid.
So, I was wondering, like, who's the flame? Who's going to be the flame? And then it's like, oh, it's Cletus, and he leads a cult. That's perfect. That's a perfect way around for this game. What you try to do. And so, if we do what we did before, and kids at home, there's no evidence that they're going to do this. With the previous game, I bought Spider-Man with the understanding that I was buying an upgraded edition that was going to include DLC later. They haven't done any of that. So we don't know that there's going to be a DLC. But if they did, I think DLC 1, you introduce Carnage and he kidnaps Harry because obviously they lay the groundwork if you play the game. There's the meteor with the null symbol. We lay a lot of groundwork with null. Carnage kidnaps Harry because he wants Venom.
Right.
DLC 2, Carnage and Venom, Peter and Miles have to deal with both Carnage and Venom. And maybe this is a good time to like introduce maybe a Daredevil. Peter needs help. Maybe he needs some. We have the mechanic of people teaming up with Peter.
Well, clearly they want like they're being super coy about like any other characters appearing. We had the Wong appearance or the Wong.
That whole game with the Wand was great. That whole sequence was the portals. So that was so fucking cool.
I was like, this is great.
So
like portal travel and fighting with them. I'm like, this is really cool. Like, what a fun thing. I can't wait to play it again when they add it right later. And I'm like, oh, they didn't. Like, I can't wait until Black Cat shows up at some point later in the game with the portals.
Right.
No,
damn
it. But there are a lot of teases to Daredevil. Like at first, I saw a screenshot that had the Nelson and Murdoch signage gone, and I just assumed that they lost the rights, and so they just erased it. But then I noticed there was an eviction notice on the door, and I'm like, oh. Yeah, and then apparently, like there were other references to Daredevil, and they were like the hand is apparently meeting someplace in the game. And when asked about it, the Insomniac director was like, and I'm like, I mean, do I want a Daredevil game? Kind of, but it'll be like Spider-Man, but with less power. He won't be able to go as far. He won't be web slinging. He'll be belly clubbing. Is that anything?
Yeah,
but
with the way
but less powerful.
But with the way that you team up, I don't know that you need a whole game. With the way you team up, like Wraith, it's like maybe a Daredevil or even a Luke Cage.
Yeah, and the fact that was a big aspect of this game is you jump into a crime and there's either Miles is there or Peter is there if you're Miles, and then sometimes Wraith is there, and then you've also got the missions with Harry as Agent Venom. So they're introducing all these like, oh look, you can fight alongside other heroes. So I think similarly. What would be cool with Daredevil would be, bring him into the story. Maybe you get a mission like you did with Venom, where you get to play as Daredevil, specifically catered to Daredevil.
Great,
and then he's coming in and helping you fight for various sequences and stuff like that.
Love that. Yeah. And then I think with this DLC, third DLC, of course, Sal and I have talked about this a lot. Why do you introduce Carnage? So that Spider-Man can team up with Venom. That's the reason he exists.
Yeah.
So now, Peter and Venom team up. But what happens? Listen, Harry's responsible for the destruction of the city. He has to leave, and I think what you establish is that now that the Rock's destroyed, his connection to Null's gone, so he can be Venom without wanting to turn everybody into symbiotes now.
Right.
And so Harry's like, I gotta leave for maybe San Francisco, but I also need to change my name. What do I change my name to? Eddie Brock. 3-pointers, shoot, nothing but net. And now you can get a whole Venom game. Imagine like New York City, but it's San Francisco as Venom, because you'd have to change the mechanics
that'd be interesting.
a little bit with Venom.
Yes.
So you could do that. You could keep it in New York. Who gives a shit? I'm just saying, like, just have Harry change his name to Eddie Brock. You're done. Have him get jacked. You're good. You're good.
They can have the symbiote leave and just find Eddie Brock.
Well, and then I also think in this DLC, you come up with a story reason. Peter loses all the anti-venom shit, so that when Spider-Man 3 rolls around, we don't have to worry about. I want to be done with by the end of this game.
Yeah,
I want to be done with the symbiotes.
I get the sense that's what they want to do too, because I think the fact that they introduced Carnage here, and that seems like a big tease. That the fact that they use Scream in this, like they're like, it feels like everything symbiote is going to be condensed to this game in DLC.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about I do like the idea of you having to you team up with Venom to fight Carnage. I don't know how you do that with Harry and like not risk what the story is going to be in the next game, because it feels like Norman's entire motivation for the G serum or whatever that's going to clearly make him the Goblin is to try and save Harry. Yeah. and so I feel like you need Harry in that coma in order for that to work. So I don't know. I kind of am just introduce Eddie Brock at the beginning of the DLC one,
It's weird that they didn't put him in there for all the characters they introduce in this game that don't go anywhere. It's weird that Eddie Brock isn't in it.
I feel like they would have. I feel like they didn't want you to be expecting him to become Venom. I feel like it would have been. It was an elephant in the room with Venom being different. Yeah.
The only issue with introducing him later is he doesn't necessarily. I mean, you could retroactively say he has a relationship with Peter to explain that. Did you all think that when? Obviously, it ended up being a reveal, and I actually like the swerve that they did. But when Rio's like, Miles, I want you to meet the guy I'm dating, I'm like, that's going to be Eddie Brock. It's going to be Eddie.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like Miles Warren or something like that. I really couldn't. Right. I was like, who is this?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Who is this person? And then they're like, it's Silk. And I'm like, get the
yeah, it's Silk's dad. Well, and then this goes to what I think we'll get a Miles Morales 2, and in that game, you play Miles and Silk. That'll be your two things.
Or maybe it sets up Silk in the same way that Miles was set up in the first.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't know how you guys feel. I don't know that I need Silk in these games. It does make sense because it's like that gives you now access to all the Spider-Women suits, Spider-Gwen, Jessica Drew, Spider-Girl, Ariana, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff.
God. Yeah, it can be everything. Yeah.
I'm just down for them to take a stab at it. Like, and also it's already set up differently. Like this is clearly a child. Like this is clearly a different version of Silk. And also, I was thinking about, obviously, if they go the Spider-Man Origins route, this is kind of a different story. But her origin, if I'm not mistaken, is she's bit by the same spider, right?
Yes.
Like, it's literally the same spider.
Right.
So if in the third one we get, since that game's going to be so Norman Osborn focused, I imagine we'll get some flashback stuff showing how so many things are related to Oscorp and Norman Osborn in general. So if we get we maybe get a flashback mission to the Spider Bite. In the first game, and then maybe there's a very, very small, Cindy Moon there who gets bit. Maybe her powers don't develop until she's, hit puberty, becomes a teenager. And so maybe her powers are starting to develop now. She doesn't have spider powers yet, but they're starting to develop now. I feel like there's just some stuff within this new world that you can do with that can make it interesting. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they do it.
I also wonder if maybe, because one thing I liked about Miles Morales, the game, is the way they remixed classic Spider-Man tropes that are typically associated with Peter.
Yes.
Right. And I kind of wondered I just left my brain. Miles' love interest in the games is
Haley?
Haley, yes.
Haley. She's great. I think she's really great. I wonder if I guess it's unclear what her age is, but I was like, could you introduce a love triangle between Miles, Haley, and Silk?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's they made it very vague. I mean, it's clear that she's a kid, but it's we don't know how old she is at all. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I did like that moment, and Sal, it sounds like you were in the same boat when Rio's like, "Here's this guy." I'm like, "Who the fuck is this?" Oh, he's Cindy said, "Okay." I was like, "Good. I'm glad I'm not supposed to know who this person is."
Exactly. No, I was like,
Right.
I don't know who this man is. Why are we doing this? And then it was like Silk. I'm like, okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and I do think, Sal, I think in Spider-Man 3, it's going to be, I think it'll start as Miles and Silk, and then Peter will have to come out of that. That'll be the big, like, Peter's got to put his big boy pants back on to fight Norman.
Well, only because he's going to be the superior Spider-Man. Like, Doc Ock's going to take.
Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think they're going to go that route?
Yeah, I think.
Wait, you think we're going to get superior Spider-Man, but not clones?
Yeah. Or we're gonna get both. Maybe
why not both?
Can I just say, as a kid that grew up in the '90s, I'm a little resentful of how accepting everybody is of Superior Spider-Man. But I've got to be ashamed of loving the clone story.
Yeah, people are really way okay with Superior.
They love that. People love it.
Yeah,
people are really.
Doc Ock can somehow take over Peter's mind and gaslight everybody. That's fine. But the fact that there's a Peter Parker clone running around, everybody's big mad about it.
They
have set it up well too with his debilitating disease that's making his body useless. Like they set up.
Set that up in the first game.
Yeah,
you've preemptively made me hate the new Spider-Man game, Sal. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, they can do both.
I'm already resentful. I'm already resentful that we get the Superior Spider suit, but we don't get the goddamn Ben Reilly suit.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. He's got like 15 movie suits. For some reason, even though they're all variations of each other, they're not lumped together like other suit variations.
I know.
It's weird.
Raimi
suit and Black Raimi suit. Why can't you just do the color swap?
Yeah.
That's just to fill a spot.
Yeah. Well, and
don't
also
need to do because a million more.
Yeah. Does Miles have more costumes than Peter? Does it just feel like he has more costumes?
It feels
than
like
Peter?
he has more.
It feels
there's
like
no.
it,
There's well, I mean, I guess besides the white suit, like there's no moment where Peter goes, "I think it's time for a change." Like,
right. Yeah, it's just
here's my terrible
just
costume nobody asked for. Yeah,
with my hair out, Peter's brown hair floating around as he's sitting around.
You know what's interesting is that it reminded me there was a book they released during the Clone Saga or post Clone Saga where it was like, here are all the different. It's just a comic book they released that was just like, here are all the drawings that we did that we're preparing to give Ben a new suit.
Yeah,
and like one or two of them have.
Of course they do. It was the 90s.
And if you're a big fan of
sock mask,
yeah. No, they had the crop top of. It was terrible. I'm like, this is horrible. And then they used it when he teams up with the Ultraverse character Prime.
Great.
It looks really bad. So
Yeah. Dude,
I've known for 25 years that it looks like crap, and then they were like, "Here it is, this game."
I can't wait to see all those in the Scarlet Spider game.
Yes,
yeah.
So good.
Give it to me, please. I just want. Listen, guys, I don't care. Listen, I know I've bitched about it. You don't need to do clones or Ben Reilly, but let me at least do the Ben Reilly Spider-Man suit in the game. Throw me a fucking bone, man.
That's all you need. And it's weird they haven't done it. It's suspicious they haven't done it. Maybe they'll throw away Miles Warren. Yeah, and it's just like, no, Doc Ock is the clone master. Like Doc Ock makes the clone. He dumps himself into there. You know.
So so you brought that up. Do we? So the other post-credit scene is Norman and Ock is cold as ice, man. Like, my son, he hurt my son, and Ock is like, fucking good, you son of a bitch.
It was awesome. I was like, good. I'm glad everybody's like not on board for this.
So I guess to say that they're going to team up feels like a stretch.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm curious, but also Ock, how does Ock escape the raft, right? I think Norman's the one who is going to be able to help him out of there, you know. He's going to be there. So I think there has to be something that gets them, but I don't know, but I feel like it's going to be Ock using Norman, and Norman just so stricken with grief that he's like, I'll do anything to figure this shit out. Yeah.
Right. Damn it. So we're going to be switching between Sal, you've said it, and now I see how it works, because now Ock will be able to fight Green Goblin Norman as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't want it. So I'll be switching between Miles and Silk and Ock as Spider-Man.
And Ock as Spider-Man.
Well, and then they can switch. You know, like there's a moment. You know, it writes itself. Like in the end of Superior Spider-Man, where like Green Goblin has minions everywhere, so it's like, okay, it's the Goblin King. There's Goblin armies. There's Goblin pockets everywhere. You got to fight those guys. You are Superior Spider-Man doing your thing, and then like it all like you switch the game, and it has to fight Green Goblin, and it's it's like the first half of the game is all Miles, and then it's like the second half is Green Goblin, and then Superior Spider-Man loses. Maybe he sacrifices himself, whatever, and Peter takes back over. Because the whole point is that like Superior Spider-Man switches from Ock to Peter to fight Norman.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what you do.
That's kind of it. That's what it is. Yeah, maybe you might be right.
What other villains do you think? So in this game, we got the big ones were we got Kraven, we got a Return of Martin Lee, we got Venom, and we got Sandman, and we got Lizard, and we didn't really talk about it, but I really the whole Lizard mission's fucking rad.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
and I like that we get you establish. Speaking of our like Spider-Man origins, like you see like OG Lizard with the lab coat.
Yes,
was Lizard. And this one's on lizard steroids, and now he's a monster.
It's cool. Yeah, I liked it all. It was great.
Who do we think? Green Goblin and Ock feel like slam dunks for Spider-Man 3. Yep. Martin Lee is going to come back in some... Maybe for Miles Morales 2 or whatever.
Yeah, they can't help but use him. I was like, when Martin Lee shows up, I'm like, what? All right.
He's their guy. He's their boy.
I love how they used him in this game. Well, the thing is, I never felt much about that character, but he was cool in the first game. And then I love how this game... decides to use him for Miles' story. And I saw some people criticize that, like, they're like, there's no buildup for Miles wanting revenge on this guy. And I'm like, well, he thought the dude was in prison. I mean, the first game. And also,
he
thought the dude was in prison, and he was like confronted with him suddenly, unexpectedly. And he's like, oh, the guy who killed my dad is out. Right. Like, you know what I mean? That would be the most traumatizing thing possible to happen. And that's part of the story, is him feeling this unexpected vengeance. It's like him not realizing that's something he was capable of feeling. And I love the way that story, again, goes back to Norman Osborn. It's about Miles breaking this cycle of vengeance, where Norman Osborn kills Martin Lee's parents, and Martin Lee then tries to get vengeance on him and kills all these other people, including Miles' dad. And Miles is like, I'm not doing this again. Like, we're not going to do this. And I thought that was really well done. I like that part.
And then Miles gets blue electric powers that are apparently different than the yellow electric power.
They needed an additional power because Peter was going to get the symbiote powers. They just needed a second thing.
I'm hoping if the next game we don't do the symbiote stuff, we're able to dial some of that back a little bit. Like, because I thought Miles played perfectly in Miles Morales, and I liked the way gadgets were utilized in Spider-Man 1. So it's like, maybe get back to that. Whatever. But anyway, so Ock, Green Goblin. Theoretically, a bunch of other villains have been killed. Who is there? Sal, question for you.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Carnage on the DLC. I think that would be dope.
Totally.
Could we be saving them to get Red Goblin?
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think, save him for Red Goblin. Because like you'll have Green Goblin, and then he can... Because you'll have... The way they did Lizard is actually a good indicator of like doing classic villains, where it's like, you have 3 versions of Green Goblin. You can have Green Goblin... who wears the purse. You have Green Goblin who genetically enhances himself. You got Ultimate Green Goblin, and you have Red Goblin. Like, you can do any of those things. Yeah, absolutely.
I get the sense that I feel like they're gonna want to be done with symbiote stuff after this narrative.
Fair.
This is the sense I get.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to have the third game be, if you're going to do Superior Spider-Man, if you're going to do Green Goblin instruction and symbiotes, you're going to have all of it in there. Right. Even though it would be cool. And I also think that I feel like we'll get that elevation where I think the escalation will be Norman on the glider, which they tease the glider and like the mask in the first game. And then I think it starts there, and then he mutates into, an Ultimate Goblin style big bad for the end of the game, is my guess. Yeah.
He takes the Joker Venom, and he gets big. And...
Yes. Right. That's my only issue. That's the only reason I'm kind of okay if we did Harry becomes Venom again and he leaves, is because I'm a little worried. Like, if he's going to use the G-Serm on Harry, you can't make Harry Green Goblin too. You know what I mean? Like, he's already Venom.
He's already been Venom. You can't do both.
That's too much. But I'm wondering, are there any other classic villains we're missing?
Yeah,
that we haven't done yet?
Right.
Yeah, we could go all in on the goblins. Yeah,
it's gonna be the goblin game.
I mean, you could go Morbius. You know,
You
you
could
could
go
do a whole
Morbius.
subplot of vampires.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, you could do Swarm, which would be fun. You know,
I thought they were gonna do Swarm with all those bees.
The second we go into the Emily May Foundation, I was like, how many of these people are going to be villains? And when I was like,
bees!
I'm the bee person, I'm like, Swarm right there, everybody.
You're Swarm. We set it up.
I also don't know that I love the idea. Again, this game's better because we're not going around giving the cops like access to every radio signal or whatever it was in the first game. But I was a little like, I don't know that I'm comfortable with a drone with a little zappy zap just flying around the city.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should regulate this.
I feel like you probably bring in Chameleon and do some identity drama.
Yes.
So I saw a thing that people were listing off. I think it was a Wikipedia page was listing off characters. Chameleon was listed in the game, and there was a brief moment where this construction guy was like, "Miles, I need your help," and then it was a trap, and Miles specifically stops and was like, "Who was that guy?" And I was like, "Is that supposed to be a Chameleon?" Reference?
Oh, right. I remember that. Yeah. Oh,
it was just weird that Miles. I was like, "Oh, it's a trap," but then Miles was like, "Who was that guy?" I was like, "I don't know, one of the fucking hunters." Why did you ask?
That's true. Why did he say that? I thought it was just one of the hunters. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
Who was that guy? That's interesting.
But Chameleon is connected to Craven, so it's like you could set that up. We could also do Grim Hunter. I believe one of the phone calls is supposed to be. It's one of his sons. I assumed it was Grim Hunter. I don't know Grim Hunter's civilian name. You could do Calypso.
Yeah, Calypso would be fun.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised she didn't show up in some capacity.
Yeah.
In this game. Before we bounce everybody from the Discord, Jake Hefner asks, it's been confirmed that the upcoming Wolverine game will be in the same universe as Spider-Man. What other Marvel heroes do you think could make for good games in this universe? I don't know how they do it, but my answer is Daredevil, but I'd be afraid it would be too similar to the Batman Arkham games.
I don't care about that. They're perfect games. I love those games. I'll play a Daredevil game that's like Batman. When I was playing Batman, I remember being like, do them all like this.
Yes. Yes. And Insomniac was like, here you are. Yes.
Here you go. No, see? Proven correct.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. No, Daredevil would be great. I mean, like, the Avengers would be fun. Boy, it's a good thing no one ever made a $1 billion Avengers flop of games.
I never played it, but they just delisted it and sold it for like $4 for the complete edition on PlayStation. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll buy it and eventually try it.
I don't know how much of that game. Do I have to play that game with other people? Because that's not happening. No. I just want to be able to play mission. I just want to. I don't know. I just want to play the Avengers.
I want to see how bad the Spider-Man DLC is on PlayStation.
I mean, when you're playing this game, that one. It's it's disappointing.
My answer is kind of boring because I'm getting pretty excited about the Wolverine game, but I kind of just wish it was more general X-Men. Like I'm excited about Wolverine. Wolverine's awesome, great character, but there's so many opportunities with X-Men characters for really cool gameplay mechanics. And so I hope the game maybe slowly seeds in some and you do some missions as different characters and not just Wolverine the whole time. And then maybe it expands out into more of a X-Men narrative. And I also don't think these universes are going to feel, I don't think they're going to go hard on the interconnectivity. I would be shocked if like Spider-Man showed up. You know what I mean?
The first game made a lot of people think that like we were going to see that. Like we're going to MCU up the video games. And it was just like, no, we're just not going to do that.
No, because especially since like, why do you think it is that we got a note from Wong? It's like, because they have to, because I remember when the Godzilla King of Monsters came out and people were like, because if you don't remember that movie, I don't blame you. But there's a lot of kaiju come up at the end and like, why wasn't it more classic Toho kaiju? And they're like, because we have to pay for every one of those. We have to like get the rights from them.
And it's because they want you, they're trying to create kaiju that people like, new ones that they don't have to license, that they can then make more stories with.
Point being is that Insomniac can afford a Nelson and Murdoch sign or an Avengers Tower or a note from Wong, but they're not going to pay out for Doctor Strange to show up. Although now that I say that out loud, I would play the fuck out of an Insomniac Doctor Strange game.
They use that portal technology. Like that.
That's cool.
Oh man, that could be really awesome.
But my real answer is even more boring. Is I'd like a dope Moon Knight game. When I was playing the Flame missions, did I put on the Arachnite costume and pretend it was a little bit of a Moon Knight thing going on? Yeah, I did. Of course I did. And then you could do if you did a Moon Knight game, you could do like Mass Effect style dialogue trees where that each one kind of represents is this more of a Jake response or if this more of a Mark Spector response.
Yeah.
You could do it. I am interested to see because I feel like there's no way the Wolverine game is open world in the same way that this game is.
I don't know how it could be. He's just gonna be running around like he's too big.
Like I don't think so.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
No. So go ahead. I got another game pitch after you.
No. It's gonna be. I have confidence in it for a lot of reasons. Insomniac, I have a lot of faith in Insomniac, but they're very good with because I believe they also did that Xbox game Sunset Overdrive.
Yes,
and they're so good at movement and momentum in their games. Like if I was Sega, I'd back the money truck up to Insomniac and be like, Sonic? Did you do a Sonic game for us?
Interesting. Yeah.
What was your game pitch, Johnny?
I mean, it's also just still in the vein of these Spider-Man games. Is I want a Spider-Man 2099 game. Give me New Wave of York, dude. Set it in the future, and let's get that. Let's because I feel like I don't know. I want an open world game with this kind of traversal set in a cyberpunky future real bad. And like if Rockstar's not going to make it, then I would like Insomniac to make it.
I feel you because I was also like, dude, like a Grand Theft Auto but in Blade Runner, and then Cyberpunk 2099 came out. I was like, maybe that was the wrong thing to want. Maybe I fucked up. Although I am going to replay it now that there's the new DLC. Apparently, like every issue's been fixed and it's amazing, so I'm going to replay it. But right on, Insomniac, get on it. But seriously, like again, like if it's like Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales 2, Spider-Man 2099 release, Spider-Gwen, I'd play reskin the thing. I'll play it.
If they did a Spider-Gwen game and they tried to kind of work with that watercolor style, man. Oh,
I mean, the fact that they can do the like Into the Spider-Verse like animation, like the cell animation for Miles's costume is like, they could probably change the just overlay something to this game.
Yeah, throw some filters over New York.
That's it.
Yeah,
we get a Spider-Man noir costume, but not the Ben Reilly Spider-Man costume.
I can't believe we got we got the comic book accurate one from in the first game, and then we got the Spider-Verse one in this one.
Mm-hmm. Weird. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Any final thoughts? Spider-Man 2. Final thoughts before we wrap up.
Fun game. Glad we
played
it.
I really liked it. Yeah, it's got some great stuff. Some of my favorite Spider-Man moments ever.
Yeah.
And I'm still just stoked to see what they make next. I'll buy anything they make.
True. I'm excited to keep playing a little. I got to do more of the where you're trailing behind the robot bird.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't finish those yet.
Me either.
Yeah, I know. I normally a lot of times I try to do all that stuff before I finish it, just to get that sense of closure. Yes. But this one, again, at a certain point, symbiotes are running everywhere. I'm like, no, I will do this stuff later. I don't want to play all these while symbiotes are running around.
That's fair.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Great game.
All right. I'm sorry, before we go, do you guys think this is the peak superhero game? Is this your favorite superhero game?
I mean, this franchise is my favorite superhero game franchise. I just like as a whole, these three games have been my favorite experience. Some of my favorite experience gaming, period.
Right.
and that's partially because I'm just a huge Spider-Man fan, but they just nailed it. They just nailed it. Yeah.
No, great. Yeah, it was like the Arkham games where I was like, this is it. And then Spider-Man's like, oh, this is my favorite character with this mechanic. Like it's, and they only improve it. They're only adding to it, so I'm, easily.
Yeah, I think for me, Arkham City, and maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but Arkham City's still the high watermark for superhero games. But this is pretty gosh darn close. Big.
Arkham is more precious with the material.
Yeah.
This one's like, let's go for it, and it's like, okay, cool, but like, and I appreciate it. Like, I have to keep going like, but it's not the thing, and that's okay.
Yeah.
With Arkham, I'm just like, yes, Batman.
Yeah,
like, that was
just,
very
very like core true, and then all the like fight stuff. It always feels like Batman.
Yeah.
Where again, some of the mechanics with Peter in this one, it doesn't. I don't feel like I'm Spider-Man.
No,
sure.
But still fucking great. Loved it. And like everybody else on board with the rest of them. All right. Sal, where can the kids find you?
Swing by youtube.com/comicpop or Comic Pop Returns and see what my friends and I are up to this week.
Links in the description. Johnny, where can the kids find you?
YouTube.com/Johnny2Cellos. And it's all my socials everywhere else as well.
And he did a breakdown of this game. You should check that out.
I did. Yes. Yes. It got a little lost in the algorithm with so many Spider-Man 2 videos, but I'm proud of it. I worked hard on it.
Love the algorithm. We all love it. No notes.
We
on
love
that.
the algorithm.
We all love the algorithm.
Doing us all
hail
favors.
the algorithm. Let's sacrifice to the algorithm and see if it favors us this day. You can find me DJ Talks Trash. If you're watching this, you're here. If you wanted to watch this early, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. And for everybody that checked it out over the Patreon, we appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.